What's going on, and welcome back to video 7 in the tutorial series where we're building this to-do list app. And in this video we're going to be building out this red header view section. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's not waste too much time. The first thing we're going to want to do is head into our views folder. And let's just create a new file called headerview.dart. And in this header view we're going to create a new stateless widget called header view. And before we continue on, again, because within this header view, we're going to be accessing information and data from the view model, what we're going to do is wrap all of our widgets within here inside of a consumer. So we're going to use a consumer, and for that, again, make sure the provider imported. We're going to go ahead and be explicit about the type, say app view model, and then we'll finish out this builder, and we'll start by just returning an empty container. Cool, and then now let's go up to our task page and just replace that placeholder container with that header view that we had just created. So for that, again, we're gonna make sure that we have that header view file that we had just created imported. And now if we reload, it should replace it with just an empty view because we haven't done anything just yet. So let's head back into our header view.dart file. And instead of having a container here, let's actually use a row because we have a horizontal alignment here, or we're gonna be using a horizontal layout. So let's just return a row, and it's going to have children. And then for those children, because we have 3 widgets that we want to basically have displayed here, we're going to go ahead and provide 3 expanded widgets. And again, those expanded widgets just give it the ability to share the space dynamically. And then we'll just say that for the time being, we'll just provide placeholders and say that each expanded widget will have a container with a color. So we'll say colors.red. And let's go ahead and provide a flex value as well. And if we just copy this over 3 times, or 2 times, and have 3 of them, let's change the color so we can differentiate them. Go red, green, blue. If I save this and reload it, you can see that it just kind of evenly shares that header view. But we actually want the greeting that's going to be in this red section to expand a little bit further. So we'll just go ahead and change that first flex value to 3, save it, and that's starting to look a little bit better. So perfect. What we want to do now is start building out this greeting section. So we're going to replace that container that we just made that's red, and we're going to replace the child for that one with a column. Now we're using a column because we have 2 separately styled pieces of text. We have the actual welcome back message, and then we have the username. So what we're going to do is go into our column and just provide a couple of children. And again, we want it to share the space or all that. Actually, we won't worry about the alignment or layout just yet. We'll focus on getting the data to be displayed first. So if we reload this and provide and create 2 text widgets, what we're going to do is say the first text widget is just going to say welcome back. And the second one is going to say, well, actually, in order to get the username, what we're going to want to do, because currently we could reference the view model. Again, we want to change value to view model. We could reference the view model's user and then directly access the user through the instance of the user, but it's better practice to actually get access to the username. So what we're going to want to do is provide a helper get method that returns the username. So we'll just say string get username, and we'll set this to return our instance of a user, and we'll have it return that username without having to actually touch or worry about that user. So what we'll do now is go back into that header view, and then you should see that we now have access to our viewModel.username. And if we save that and reload it, we now have the messages welcome back and Jon Snow. So now with that done, what we can worry about is actually providing the text styling and the alignment to this view. So let's do that next. Let's provide a text style to this welcome back message first. And for this one, we will say that the style is a new text style, and we'll provide a desired font size, which won't matter too much because we're going to be wrapping it in some auto layout widgets, but we'll say that we want, if possible, a font size of 23. We also want our font weight to be font weight.w400, so not too bold, but not too thin either. And then we'll say our color is equal to our view model dot color level 4. We want our greeting message to be on the darker side. So we save that and reload it. It's starting to look a little bit better. We can now go into our username text view, and we can provide a style for this one as well. So we'll say style is a new text style, and the font size for this one, if possible, is 42. And then the font weight is going to be font weight. Now this one we want to be a little bit thicker, so we'll say bold. And then the color is going to be the same thing. It's just going to be the view models color level 4 dot color level 4. So if I went a little bit fast there, here's what that looks like. And then if I reload this, it's starting to get there in terms of how we want it to look. So the next thing we're going to want to do is wrap our text widgets in some alignment guides. But first, we want to wrap our text widget in a fitted box, so that way it'll kind of handle the size of our text if our application is built on not this specific device. So we'll wrap this text in a widget. It's just called a fitted box, and we'll provide it a fit of box fit, and we'll say we want it to fit the height. And we'll do the same exact thing for this next one. We want it to fit the height, so we'll wrap it in a widget, which is just going to be a fitted box again. And then we will say the fit is box fit dot fit height. Cool. So that probably didn't change much because we already expected it to look this way, but it will continue to look like this on different devices now. So now what we want to do is, because we want these two views to be kind of like smashed together a little bit and then placed to the left, what we're going to do is wrap our fitted box in an align widget. So we'll wrap this in an align, and then within this align, we'll say alignment is equal to alignment dot bottom left. And we're doing bottom left because this is the welcome back one. So we want this to be down and to the left. And then for the actual username, we want it to be up and to the left. So we'll say when we wrap this username widget, we will wrap it with widget. It's going to be an align, and the alignment for this one is going to be alignment dot top left. If I save that and reload it, you can see that it kind of puts them together and puts it to the left as well. And the last thing we want to do is, because again we are in a column, we want to provide some flex values so that way it knows how to kind of use the space correctly. As you can see it at the moment, it's kind of off center and to the top. So what we're going to do is be really explicit about how much space each one of these text views has to work with. So we'll wrap our alignment widget one more time, and this time we'll wrap it in an expanded, and we'll provide a flex value of just say 1 for now, and then take this alignment widget, also wrap it in an expanded widget, and then say that the flex value here is also 1. And if we reload this, they both kind of share the same amount of space. So let's just go ahead and make the username a little bit bigger. And we can do that by just changing the flex value on the username widget. So if we reload this, starting to look a little bit better. And the last thing we're really going to want to do is take our column, and then we're going to wrap it in a container. And we're wrapping it in a container so that way we can provide a margin. And the margin is going to be an edge inset. And we're only going to be targeting the left side. And we're going to provide 15. If we save this and reload it, then actually this value of 15 would be a good candidate to throw into the view model. Not even a good candidate, it's recommended to throw this into the view model. So that way we could consistently access and update how much our edge inset is in one spot. And that can be done in cleanup. We'll do that a little bit later. So now you can see that the actual header view has some space on the side here. So if we save this, reload it, our greeting message is good to go. Now we just want to go ahead and build out these two, the green and blue section. So if we get started on that, what we're going to want to do is get started by replacing this placeholder container. We'll just replace this with an icon for now. So we'll say our icon is icon.delete. And then if we reload, you can see that it replaces that with a delete icon. Now, because we want both of these icons to look pretty similar, we'll start by just styling one of them, and then we'll just kind of copy it over and replace this entire expanded widget. So let's go ahead and provide a style. What we're going to want to do to this icon is we'll give it a specific color. So instead of just using black, we want to use an application color. So we'll say the color is equal to view model dot color level 3. And then we will say that the size is equal to 40. And if we save that and reload it, we should be looking a little bit better. Okay, cool. Perfect. And then we can just take this now, this entire widget, save it, and then replace this other expanded widget down here. Looks like this. And then if we reload now, we have two trash can icons. What we can do is replace where it says trash. And so instead of having to delete icons, we can have one that says settings. Perfect. And now all that's really left to do is to wrap these icons in some inkwells. So that way we could perform a tap and also have that the look that we're going for, where when you tap it, it has like that inkwell look. So what that looks like is if we go ahead, take that icon, we're going to wrap this icon in an inkwell. And we're going to provide an on press or on tap for an inkwell. And then within that on tap is where we're going to actually be showing the modal that pops up. So the way we're going to do that is by, let's go to our bottom sheets now, and let's go ahead and create a couple of new bottom sheets that we're going to be showing. So we can create our new bottom sheet for our delete. So we'll say delete bottom sheet view.dart. And then we can also create our settings bottom sheet view.dart. And if we go to our add task bottom sheet view.dart, we can kind of see what it is we're going to be doing again. So we're just going to be basically recreating this thing for the settings bottom sheet view, because currently the settings page will just update the username. So what we're going to want to do to get the settings bottom sheet view.dart going is we'll just start by, you can actually just kind of take this whole thing. We can just paste it over to our settings bottom sheet view. And then we will just replace everywhere where it says add task bottom sheet view with settings bottom sheet view. Take that and then replace it, save it, and then reload. And then let's go ahead and jump back into our header view. And then, oh, sorry, I added another inkwell here. So let's just delete that one. Let's take this and just copy it over again. And then let's just replace the icon with a settings icon. Now, if we reload, we're going to be using, again, the reason why we created this bottom sheet builder inside of our view model is so that way we can recreate it in different places. So this is a good example of being able to recreate in a different spot. So in our header view, all we need to do is in our settings inkwell, we can go ahead and say view model, and then we could say bottom sheet builder. And then all we're going to do is pass in our bottom sheet. So we're going to pass in our settings bottom sheet view as a parameter. And then that's all we're going to need to do. So now if we reload this and then hit our settings icon, it's going to pop up another one of those text fields. But now instead of actually having to build it all out, because we have really similar functionality in two spots now, what we're going to do is just update what happens when we enter text and hit done here. So if we go into our settings bottom sheet, currently what we have in our settings bottom sheet on submit is to add a new task, but we don't want to add a new task from here. Currently, if we use the settings bottom sheet, it's going to add a task. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is go to our view model and create a function that can be used to update our username based on whatever is entered in here. So let's hop into our view model, and in our view model, let's just create a new function called update username, and it's just going to be void because it's not going to be returning anything. So let's just say void update username, and it's going to take in a string of new username, and all we're going to do here is say user.username is equal to new username. And then again, because we're actually updating data, we're just going to notify listeners. Now if we save that and reload it, let's go ahead and head back into our settings bottom sheet view. Within our settings bottom sheet view, again, instead of adding and creating a new task, all we're going to do is if our entry controller is not empty, what we're going to say is, all we're going to say is view model dot update username, and we're just going to pass in the text in our entry controller. So we'll say entry controller dot text. If we save that and reload it, we're not going to see any visual change except for when actually using it. So before it was creating a new task, and now it should be making a new name. So we'll say new. If we hit done, it updates the username. Again, because we are in a consuming widget inside of this header view. So as we notify listeners, it goes through and then updates the view, or the widget rather. Cool. So now that that's done, all that's really left to do is build out this delete functionality inside of this delete inkwell. So the way we're going to do that is by building out our delete bottom sheet. But also, if we go into our delete bottom sheet, we still need to create our widget. So let's create a new stateless widget here and call it delete bottom sheet view. And again, we are going to need our consumer. We need a consumer basically everywhere because the view model is being passed around everywhere. So we'll say consumer. Again, make sure that your provider imported, and then be explicit about that type. And then for our builder, we're again just going to get access to all this, update value to say view model, so we're being consistent throughout the app. And let's go ahead and just start by returning a container. So we'll just return a container with a height of say 150. So now what we're going to do is go back into our header view, and on the on tap for our trash can icon, let's actually kind of comment this out so it's a little bit easier to know where we're at. This is for the trash icon, and this is for the settings icon. And saving it should just kind of push it back if you have those extensions installed. And then on tap here, we're going to say view model, and then we're going to say build bottom sheet or bottom sheet builder. And we're going to pass in our delete bottom sheet view. And that's all we're going to need to do in here because we already have that helper method created. So if we reload and then open this trash can icon, you're going to see it basically creates a bottom sheet widget at the bottom with a height of 150 because that's what we specified. If we go into our delete bottom sheet and then say it's actually 250 is what we want, and we reload it, you'll see that it changes the height. So now we can go ahead and build out our delete bottom sheet view.dart file. And let's get started on doing that by first wrapping it in a row and then in a column, because we have, actually we can just do a row. So what we're gonna do is just create a row, and that row has some children, and that's going to consist of basically just 2 elevated buttons. Now let's just create our 2 elevated buttons, and then we'll create the onPressed functionality. And then the text widget for the first one will be to delete all the tasks. So we'll just say text of delete all. And we'll start by building one of these buttons out and styling it the way we want to, and we'll just copy it over and then build out the next one afterwards. So what we're going to do here is let's actually wrap our row inside of a container so we can be explicit about the height. So we'll wrap this in the container, and we'll say our height is say 125 is a good height. Now if we save that and reload it, we have a little bit more room to work with here. And cool. So within our elevated button, let's go ahead and provide that style. And what we're going to do is, let's say after child, or let's say after onPressed, we'll say style is equal to elevated button, and then we'll style from the elevated button. And we're going to provide a foreground color of our view model, and then we'll use the color level 3. And then our background color, or sorry, the foreground color is going to be the text, so it's going to be color level 1. And then the background color is going to be view model color level 3. And then we're also going to want to provide a text style to the text that's inside of the button. So we'll say our text style is equal to text style. And then we will provide a font weight because we want this to be a little bit on the thicker side. We'll say W700. And we'll also say that our font size is going to be, say, 16. Now if we reload this, starting to look a little bit better. And what we're going to do is also provide a shape to give it a little bit less of like a harsh edge. It will give it more of a rounded corner. So after our text style, we'll say the shape is equal to a rounded rectangle border, and we'll provide a border radius of border radius dot circular, and let's just say 20 is a good border radius here. So now it's starting to look a little bit better. What we're going to want to do now is set the alignment. So I believe it's a cross-axis alignment. So we'll say cross-axis alignment dot center. If we save that, or I guess it's actually the main axis alignment. Main axis alignment, I was getting those two mixed up. If we reload that, it's going to place it in the middle now. And we're basically good to go here now. We have our styled button, and now all we need to do is just kind of copy it over. So what we'll do is take this and we'll copy it over, save it, reload. Now we have two buttons. Now if we just provide space between on the alignment, it uses all the space. Let's just use center, and then between these two buttons we'll provide a sized box, and we'll say the width on the sized box is 15. We save that, that works, and let's just go ahead and delete or update one of the buttons to say delete completed. So we'll have one button that deletes all the tasks, and we'll have one that only deletes the completed tasks. So now all we really have to do from this point is add the functionality in our view model to update the data depending on what we want it to do. So what we're going to do for this delete all, inside of our app view model, let's start with that one. We'll create a new void function. I'll say void delete all tasks. It doesn't accept any parameters, and we'll just say tasks.clear. So what that's going to do is just clear the list, and then we'll again notify our listeners. So now from back inside of our delete bottom sheet view, inside of the on tap, and if you need a second just to kind of take a look at what we're working with here so far, let me just move this down a little bit. Here's what we have inside of our delete bottom sheet view.dart. The repo is actually also available down below. But on this delete all elevated button, let's go ahead and say view model dot delete all tasks. So if we save and reload and then use that button, it should delete all. But the last thing we want it to do when we press a button is we want it to automatically dismiss this bottom sheet. So what we'll do from this point is say view model dot delete all tasks, and then we'll say navigator dot of context, and then we'll just pop this current widget from the route. So now what happens when we tap on this is that it just will automatically dismiss it. Cool, let's add a couple more just to make sure it's working as expected. So delete all, deletes all the tasks and automatically dismisses that view. Cool. So now all we really need to do is delete all the tasks that are completed. So let's start by creating a couple tasks. And now that we have a couple completed, let's go ahead and head back into our applications view model and then create a new function called void delete completed tasks. And then I think previously we had a function that says the tasks remaining. So what this was actually going to help us. What it's going to do, we could kind of filter and then update our tasks list. So we're going to use a very similar method to the one that's being used here. So we'll be saying tasks is equal to tasks.where the element meets a certain requirement. What's the best way to do this? Tasks.where element is equal to element.complete. And then we'll just say toList. So all of the tasks currently in this function is saying every task where element is complete, we're going to set that to a list. But we want to do the negation of this. So we want to say any task that isn't complete is going to be in here. Instead of saying element, just say task. And if it doesn't meet this predicate, we should be good to go now. So now we're going to head back into our delete bottom sheet view. And then inside of here, we're going to say view model dot delete complete tasks. And then we'll say navigator dot of context. And again, we'll just go ahead and pop this view from the root. So now if we hit delete and delete completed, you'll see that nothing was deleted because nothing's completed. But if we set a couple of these to complete, deleting completed ones should remove the other ones. No, it will not, because I did not notify the listeners of that function. So underneath this, we're going to want to go ahead and notify our listeners. And actually, after I reload it, it should update. Cool. So here we go. Let's add a couple more again just to see if it works this time. Although I'm pretty sure it will, because now we're actually notifying our listeners. Let's select a couple of these as complete. And then if we delete completed, perfect. So that's it for video 7. This one's a little bit longer. We implemented a couple of bottom sheets using our helper method to create those bottom sheets, and we got the greetings view complete. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.